As promised, let's start a Seeker's Sanctuary book club and begin with the Kybalion. Probably arguably the most influential occult hermetic book published since 1900. So hop on the Discord. We'll be talking about it there. Also, stitch any of these. I think once a week we'll read a chapter and we'll try to pay attention to that chapter and try to apply it to our own lives. And so I'd love to hear what people are saying about it. You can get whatever version you want to read. I got this definitive edition only because the guy who put it together is working on the first full-length biography of William Walker Atkinson, who's probably the person who published this anonymous book. This guy's pretty sure that it was him. I think it is. Most people think it is. But you don't have to get this definitive edition. There's a ton of free editions online. There's also a great LibriVox edition. I think the audiobook was the first way I did it, and I thought it was a great way to get it into your head. And by the way, if you're someone who looks down on audiobooks, I think you're an asshole. The other thing I'd say that's on LibriVox is there's like 9 books by William Walker Atkinson on there. There's one called The Art of Memory that I've mentioned on here before, but it's amazing, especially because the reader of it just loves it. He is just like the epitome of the New Thought movement. So if you want a great book on how to sharpen your memory, it's a really practical book by this same guy. So, what I want to do today was talk about a little bit of what I learned from the intro of this book that I didn't know before, because it's nice to have an intro written by a guy who's working on a biography of the author. And so, the first thing to know about the Kybalion is a lot of people think it's really old, because, they're not particularly aware of the history of it, but it's only from 1908. So, it's old to us, but it's not old. I also think a lot of people thought it might have been directly transmitted somehow. So while it might have been published then, somehow this was going back to very deep ancient magic. But one of the first things that this book makes clear is these ideas were all in the zeitgeist at the time. For 20, 30 years, people have been talking about natural laws of attraction and how the universe works and how you can apply that to your own life for prosperity and a better life. So it's not like he was saying things that were particularly new. He just said them very well. And he also didn't publish it under his own name. He published it as 3 Initiates. And, doesn't that make it sexy? Who knows what that could be? It does help. And so it's cool that this was the New Thought movement is actually really fascinating. It's this time from the 1880s onward where it was people talking about the power of positive thinking. And William Walker Atkinson must have had that because at the height of his career, he was writing a book every 7 weeks. He put out so many books, it's amazing. And they're all these positive, great books on all these different parts of occult and thinking and stuff like that. He's really a heck of a character. Though, what was really special about this intro was going over how influential this book is and how you can make the argument that it is the most influential occult book to have happened since 1900. And the first one that he mentions is Norman Vincent Peale, who I heard about through my dad. But he was this guy, The Power of Positive Thinking. And he eventually became a conservative Christian thinker kind of person. But his power of positive thinking was a huge game changer. It was about a lot of salesmen used it, a lot of people used it. And Norman Vincent Peale in his later years admitted that a lot of this came from his early studies of occult and Freemasonry. And no one knows that he actually read this book, but he was reading books like this one. And he could have read the Kybalion as well. What else happened? Apparently The Secret, that phenomenon from 2006, pretty much just drew on this book. This is my favorite thing that I learned, absolutely. There was a New Jersey group of mystical bounty hunters known as the Seekers. So, if you don't know U.S. law, there are bounty hunters who get paid to go bring in criminals who are on the run. And so, apparently, using humane treatment and spiritually centered values, this group enjoyed a success rate that surpassed even the FBI and the U.S. Marshal Service. And apparently, to get into this, they said you had to read the Kybalion as well as have martial arts training and a gun permit. And so this group was very successful at bringing in their bounties, which I really love that one. Apparently, there are a couple people who started building pyramids, because the pyramids they talk in here. In Salt Lake City, there's something called the Summum, which is this giant pyramid. And so the that part's really cool. The part that I learned also was this has become it. This was drawn into a lot of different spiritual movements, from the early pagan witch writings, to the New Age movement, to the some of the early magical groups. All of them were referencing his work, and it's not like a foundational text, but it's this thing that these people writing the new text for their movement. This is what they were reading, and so it permeated out into so many different spheres. And interestingly, even into the Egyptian, African, Afro spirituality movement, people of African descent started seeing this as something that came directly from Egypt, and so it has become not a cornerstone of modern Egyptio-Afro spirituality, but certainly a beloved minor classic of that movement. And so it's just amazing how much influence it's had. And here on the numbers of it, the Kybalion has seen dozens, if not hundreds, of different editions. It's been translated in at least 10 languages and Braille. There is this guy named Dario Somar used the 7 Hermetic Principles of Kybalion to create his Institute for Hermetic Philosophy that now has branches throughout Europe, the US, and then Latin America. This is a very cool one. The words of the Kybalion were set into a madrigal spiritual, which is an a cappella musical form that was normally reserved for poetry honoring Catholic saints or the Virgin Mary. And it was performed publicly in Munich in the 80s. So that's pretty cool. And so, yeah, I think that's what I had here to mention. The last thing that I think that's worth mentioning is that, this book was written in 1910. So many people think it's so much older. That really harkens back to the original Hermetic teachings, that for most of human history, they were thinking these Hermetic teachings, the Hermetica itself, was ancient Egypt, older than Moses, from way back in time. And then it turns out once you applied philological techniques, no, this was like 1st century Greeks who put together the Hermetica. And they said it was much older because that's what everybody says. Oh, it's from this, old master. But up until partway through the Renaissance, everybody thought that the Hermetica was very, very old. And it turns out it wasn't. And the same thing happened with the Kybalion. People just have the feeling that this is very, very old. And the ideas are very old, but it's not. But somehow it's become a classic that, as he says here, gets mentioned in the same breath as much older and established sacred texts like the Bible and the Quran. And it's true. So that's why I want to invite you to join me in, if you'd like, to read the Kybalion. And the intro, the first chapter is going to just go over the 7 Hermetic Principles. And so I have my own little version of them here with my own little doodles that I'm using as the symbols. I'll keep working on them as we go. I'll put this on Instagram so people can see it. What you might want to do, since I like the idea of making this a practical book study, because probably a lot of us have read this book or have heard about it. It's very much in the atmosphere if you're into this kind of stuff. But it's a practical book. It's about making your life practically better. And for me, even just reading the intro over the last couple days, life is better. I'm using the vibrations, baby. I'm attracting the good thoughts. I'm getting out of this depressive state that I've been in. And so it's really helpful. I forgot how helpful it is just bringing good energy in. And so what I might recommend is, for the first week, concentrate on just one of the 7 principles that he mentions and feel into which one matters for you and just concentrate on that. And as I said, if you have any insight about this or want to share anything, stitch this video. I'll try to make one a week, and we'll do 1 chapter a week, or hop on the Discord where we're going to be talking about this more in our little place called Secret Sanctuary. So, yeah, this has been really rejuvenating. It's also fun to just sit here and talk and not have to worry about editing. This is going to be the new style of Lex Pelger and his books, is no editing and just talking one time, because it just makes life so much easier. So thanks for coming along for the ride, and hopefully we'll see you on the other side of the Kybalion.